Guys, I'm really happy to welcome to the podcast Sherronna Bishop. Sherronna's a mom. She's the founder, in fact, of a group called America's Mom, which is a conservative platform to support and encourage and involve parents. She's also a wife and mom herself of 4 children. I saw a very disturbing account of the FBI visiting Sherronna Bishop at her home, and I was like, wow, I need to get the full story. Sherronna, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. I've been reading a little bit about your case, but of course, I'm a little distrustful of the sources I'm reading, such as PolitiFact, and I'll get to that, but let me start by asking, just describe the experience, because it's got to be a completely unnerving one of the FBI showing up at your door. When was that and what happened?
Thank you, Dinesh, for having me on to share this story. I think it's very important because I'm a regular, everyday citizen. I have no criminal history, no violent history, and the FBI is usually reserved for those who are participating in extreme criminal behavior. On November 16th, I was homeschooling my kids and cooking for the week. We're still in our pajamas and just living our life. And at 9:30 in the morning, there was banging on our front door and followed by yelling. And I didn't have any reason to believe the FBI would ever be at my door. So it took me just a minute to kind of figure out what was going on. I ushered my boys into their bedroom and just said, wait here. They're 8 and 10. And my husband came up from his office downstairs. He could hear banging on the door and didn't know what was going on. And probably definitely under a minute, maybe 45 seconds, we were at the door about to open it. They were yelling, "This is the FBI. We have a warrant." And before we could open the door, we were literally right there. They took a battering ram to my door and busted it open. The irony is the door wasn't even locked. And again, no time for us to get to the door and contemplate and comprehend what is going on. After they busted my door open, they proceeded to pull my husband out the front door and pulled me out the front door. I had my phone in my hand trying to call our attorney because I didn't know what to do. I don't know are they allowed to do this? And what am I supposed to be doing when they come to my home like this? They grabbed my phone from my hand. I asked for it back. They said, absolutely not. It's part of the warrant and they can take it. And they proceeded to pull my arm back behind me and handcuff me. They handcuffed myself and attempted to handcuff my husband as well. I was in handcuffs for about 30 minutes. My boys finally came to the front door to see what was going on. And, you're standing out there in your pajamas. It's cold. It's November in the mountains here where I live. And they are going through my home. They didn't, it's still kind of a shocking situation. But there was more that went on that day as well with my oldest daughter who was present. One of the agents who was 6'5", 6'7", proceeded to manhandle her by her hoodie, pulling her up the stairs and back down the stairs after we'd asked that she get her phone so she could call our attorney and we could figure out what to do. I'm a regular person. And I'm well aware of the October 4th mandate that was put out by the DOJ to go after parents who are being vocal against this regime right now, both in the school board and nationally. So that's really where we're at right now.
Now, let's turn to that. Let's describe what is the type of activism that you're involved in that you think made you a target. And then second, what was their stated reason for being at your door? They're like, we got to search your house. Search your house for what?
Right. So it took them, they needed about a half an hour to clear my house, quote unquote. And the warrant stated that it was conspiracy to commit wire fraud. I don't know what that means, but I've spoken to many retired agents since who have told me that's just a categorical, cover to be able to get your contact information. One thing I want you to know is that one of the investigators that was present that morning, I asked him, what is it you think I've done that warrants this behavior on my family? And he said, you connect people. So the activism that I do is I hold school boards accountable. I realized in 2019 that elections have consequences. Bad policy is destroying my state, destroying my local county. And I wanted the people, regular people, to get involved and stop letting the political elite determine our lives. Their policies are destroying us. And in a very quick, hasty way, we're seeing it right now under the Biden regime. But that's what I do. I educate parents. I bring them together with elected officials so they can hear firsthand and get involved in the conversation. In Colorado, we flipped 10 school boards on November 3rd, 2021. It was an unprecedented action, and it was because parents got involved. And that's what we do. We encourage regular people, get involved. This is your country, it's your state, it's your town, and you've got to hold these people accountable. So that's really the work I do. I've also been aware of election irregularities in Colorado as well as the rest of the country. And I think those two things in tandem are dangerous right now. They do not want regular people being a part of this process. They don't want us asking questions, and they definitely don't want us using social media to educate other people. I mean, you know how that goes. The censorship has been unbelievable. Our phones are tapped. It's unbelievable. It's alarming what is happening in America, where we're supposed to be able to express our grievances. We're supposed to be able to hold our government accountable. And these actions definitely persuade some to be silent.
No, Sherronna, there's a so-called fact check in PolitiFact, and I'm sort of chuckling because I know that these fact checks are largely fraudulent. But in this fact check, it says that the FBI was really trying to search a woman named Tina Peters, who was a Mesa County clerk, on some apparent election violation, and that they searched your home because you were an ally of Tina Peters. And I'm thinking to myself, how stupid is that? Whatever they're searching her house for, whether legitimate or not, what possibly could you have to do with that just by being, quote, associated with her? So the article was deeply unsatisfactory on its own merits, but would you address this issue that they weren't going after you, says PolitiFact, because you're a parent or you're an activist? It had nothing to do with school boards, but there was evidently some alleged corruption against this other woman, Tina Peters. You're associated with her. That's why they came to search your house. Address that directly, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, there's two things you're not allowed to talk about. You're not allowed to talk about election irregularities, and you're not allowed to talk about your grievances with school boards. We know for a fact that our superintendent of our school district here reported parents to the FBI. They took advantage of that offer, and they made a list and sent it to them. Interestingly enough, I don't work for Clerk Peters. I'm an independent citizen. I've simply used my voice to say there are some things going on that don't look right. I've been a very vocal supporter of people who are investigating election irregularities, and a very vocal supporter of grassroots people who are running for school boards. PolitiFact has never called me. They've never interviewed me. They have no idea what they're talking about. They've certainly never seen the warrant that was served to me. And as far as I know, they haven't spoken with the FBI. We also have never seen the affidavit that led to these warrants. So they have no idea. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, I still don't fully understand why they came to my home. I really don't. But I speculate that those are the two things we're just not allowed to be a part of in America anymore.
I think what's disturbing, Sherronna, and maybe I'll close on this, is the fact that we heard about Merrick Garland and his task force against terrorism. We heard about the prospect of parents being targeted, but you are a real-life parent who was, in fact, whose privacy and whose life was invaded in this way. I think it's a very disturbing indication. And thank you very much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story.
I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much, Dinesh. Keep up the good fight.
My pleasure.